Hello and welcome to Biddeford Today. I'm your host Roger Hirschbees. Today I have two special guests. To my left is Delilah Poupore, the Executive Director of the Heart of Biddeford, and to her left is Rob Biggs, who is the Executive Director for Saco Main Street. Hello and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking a little bit today about each of your organizations and what do you do for your both respective cities. Who wants to start?
Well, I will just say I'm glad to have Rob come over here to Biddeford. We have been working together a lot since he started the job a little over a year ago. Yeah. So it's great to have somebody who just jumps in and is willing to collaborate. And we've got something coming up. Okay, we'll figure out how to get involved.
Now, Delilah, how long have you been with the Heart of Biddeford?
It's 6 full years now, 6+ years.
Rob, how long?
A year this last February.
And how do you like it?
It's interesting. I'm new to Saco, moved here 2 years ago with my family, and just kind of jumped into how can I get involved with the city, and joined Saco Main Street's Board of Directors, and after a few months with no executive director, they asked me if I'd take the role, and I said, what the heck? So between that and attending city council meetings and historical preservation boards and so on and so forth, I know more people in Saco now than I do in the hometown that I spent my life in. So
now, where were you from originally?
Originally Massachusetts, and then I spent the next 30 years floating around the country in corporate America, from Colorado to Houston, Texas to Chicago, and then came here.
So you've been west of the Mississippi.
I have been west of the Mississippi. I have not moved west of the Rocky Mountains, but that stopped me. So
That's your
right.
use.
Delilah, you said you've been there about 6 years now.
Yeah.
So, and how do you like it?
I love it.
Say you love it, right?
Yeah, I love it. It's something new every day, and that's what I like in my job. In fact, there's something new every hour. You know, I'm constantly working on different projects, and I really like that Biddeford cares about building a community, and that can be hard to do in a place with tough economics, you know, over the years.
So what is happening in Biddeford, Saco, in your respect for yourselves? Each organization. Which one do you want to start?
Okay.
I'll let you kick off. Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Well, in order of appearance, this Saturday, I'm not exactly sure when this will air, but
I'm not sure either.
we have something called a cornhole tournament at Banded Horn Brewery. That's Saturday, May 13th. And that's the first time we're trying that. Do you know cornhole? No. It's that game where there's a rectangle and you throw a beanbag into the hole.
All right,
and there's teams, and there'll be a big grand...
Yeah, because it's on a slant like.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So that's kind of fun. We're trying it out. There's just 16 teams just to see what it's like to run a tournament like that. And then we also have an event on June 9th at City Theater where we're bringing in Chris Humphrey. He's this great piano player from the Kennebunks, and he is bringing his big band in for a show at City Theater, playing the music of the Rat Pack. So if you liked, okay, who's in the Rat Pack?
Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yep. If you like their music, you can come to City Theater that
Joey
night.
Bishop was one of them.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you really know. So you got to come to that show.
It's my era.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, and Chris Humphrey's amazing, but his wife is a wonderful singer, and they've got all the horns and everything. So those tickets are on City Theater. Right before that is the Memorial Day Parade.
Right. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. An annual tradition, of course, on Memorial Day, honoring those who have served and died, and in service to our country. And we will be at the Veterans Memorial Park at 10 a.m. on Memorial Day for an opening ceremony.
Now, for the people who don't know where Veterans Memorial Park is, why don't you tell them, the public, where it's at?
To memorize where all the parks are. It's the corner of Alfred Street and Poole Street. And it's a great little spot for a ceremony and flag raising. And then the parade will take a right turn on Alfred, right down Main Street into Saco, ending on Saco's Beach Street there. And we've got a good group of people signing up.
Because you've been doing it now about 3 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm impressed every time I look at it, watch the parade, and how many people are involved with it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. People love to be involved with it. One of my favorite groups is the middle school band from Biddeford, because Amy DeLorge is the teacher there, and she wouldn't care if it was raining. She would personally hold, umbrella over each kid if she could. When we've had to cancel and move inside, she says, "We'll be there. Tell us, what time we're going to play." So they really like to be in support.
They had a good sized amount of students participating in that band.
Oh, absolutely.
I was impressed one year when I saw how many they had. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's great.
Bob, let's talk a little bit about Saco. What have you got scheduled, say this month?
Well, so we're starting as far as events go, the first event that we've got coming up is Saturday, June 24th. It's the annual art festival. This will be the 47th year, actually. So it's been going a little while. And we will have somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 to 75 artists on our Main Street. We shut down Main Street that day. And it's from 8 until 4 in the afternoon.
And that's well received in Saco too. It's really well received with the artists over there.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's unbelievable.
We've made a few changes the last year and offered the artists some more services, a lot with helping them set up and take down. It makes it a lot easier on them, certainly, and providing lunches for them was a good thing. They like that. But beyond that, we'll have, we then move into our classic car show in July, and that's on the 29th, and that's an 8 to 1. That one does not shut down Main Street purposefully just because it's a car show. And we had last year, we went from in the neighborhood in 2015 about 65 cars to 150 last year.
My friend's involved with you people, Mike Tremblay.
Yeah, Mike's big on that in our Christmas event that we'll talk about later. Okay. But yeah, it's pretty weather dependent, certainly, because people with fine old cars don't like to come out on rainy days. But we had a beautiful day last year, and as I always tell Delilah, we never let it rain on Saco Main Street event days. So we were quite lucky last year. We had one with a little bit of mist, but generally it was quite good. So that worked out well. And we're going to have a music in the park. We started it last year. We did 6 nights. We start in after 4th of July and run through August.
Now, where is it at in Saco?
That is actually going to be held, we actually call it Music in the Parking Lot because it's in the parking lot between the Dyer Library and Saco Museum.
Oh.
And it works out quite well. We have both grass areas for people with blankets, and we have blacktop for people with folding chairs to set up. Mm-hmm. We've got a wide variety of music. We're starting out with a 50s band. We get into some 40s music with the Saco River Jazz Band. Mm-hmm. We have, we're going to end up with Don Campbell, who's going to be
great.
Yeah, he's going to be a great performance. That's August 17th, our last night. And we also have Treble G, so they're a local band here with both a couple, brother-sister from Biddeford and a guy that plays violin from Thornton Academy. So that's a nice little blend. So we've got a real good mix of music from start to finish, something for everybody. It's been a great community builder, and we usually have 2 nonprofits that are selling refreshments and treats and drinks and things like that. So it brings their group in as well as, and they get to keep the money for that evening. So it's a good fundraiser for each individual group.
Mm-hmm. Delilah, you do it for a city of Biddeford now. Have you got any details on it?
Yeah, our Music in the Park is on Wednesday nights, and it's nice that we have one bank that's sponsoring both of those Music in the Park, so it's great to have their support. Great. Yeah. We've got 8 weeks of music. It's probably our most diverse lineup of music. It starts on June 20. What's your first night?
Ours is July 13th.
It says 24. Must be 23, 22. 21st must be the first night. There, I'm doing the math. And that's with
You're
the...
not French, are you?
I might be. What do you think Poupore is? Poupore used to be Poupore. Did you know that?
Oh,
And then they
okay.
changed it to Poupore.
Poupore.
Yep. They changed it to Poupore up in Canada.
Okay.
Anyway.
What you thought with your hands, I said, you got to be French.
Totally. That's how else are you going to express?
Go ahead.
Rites of Swing, they're called. So it's a swing band will kick off our series. So hopefully some of those swing dancers will come down and do a little dancing during it too. And there's a great line of bands from Maine, as well as there's a traveling band from Texas who's coming and just happens to be coming through Maine that time. So we were able to get them. And
That's good.
Yeah, that'll be 8 weeks of them.
That's great. How do you like working in joint ventures between the two organizations?
Well, when I first joined this group, I was aware of Heart of Biddeford, and I decided that I kind of questioned why we weren't working with them on a regular basis. And so I called Delilah, who actually lives about a block and a half from me, and it just seemed natural that we should be working together. As we've both said many times, if you look at on Google Earth at Saco and Biddeford, it looks like one town with a river in the middle. And so it just made sense that we would work together. And River Jam, which is coming up in September this year, is a great example of that. Then also the parades and just even programming. So her Music in the Park is Wednesday, ours is Thursday night. So we don't step on each other. Our Christmas event is a Saturday, hers is Friday, so we can combine those together.
That's right.
Although we don't necessarily advertise them as one event. It's two events, but we cross-pollinate, and I talk about her events quite a lot and push those out as well as she does with ours. So it just makes sense that, both communities can pull together that way. The Battle of the Bridge is over, I've been told. I wasn't here for that period of time, but there's still a few probably
it's over for now.
There's a few folks I've met in their 50s and 60s who are still talking about that tackle that so-and-so made on their buddy. So, but no, in general, I mean, as evidence, River Jam growing from 400 or 500 people the first year to over 2,000 last year.
Right. I saw your ads that you had on like ESPN or wherever it was on TV, and I thought it was really done well for your advertising for both cities. I think whoever you people got, I thought they did an excellent job promoting the two cities.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a local company that did that. Canadian company. They're the marketing firm who did that.
Yeah, and the City Saco Economic Development Department actually sponsored those for us.
Oh, they did.
And in essence gave the time to us to do that. And yeah, I was shocked. I expected cable TV, we'd be out at 3 in the morning, you'd have to stay up late to see Delilah and I was watching a Red Sox game one night, and suddenly my friend sat there with me and said, "That's you on TV." So yeah, it was pretty cool. Certainly it was great to show the two of us and how that worked together with our spring schedule. And then when we did the River Jam, we had Delilah on a stand-up paddleboard for the first time in her life while she was fully dressed for work. And as I brought the paddleboard down to her, I said, "Have you ever done this before?" She goes, "No, but I've stood up before and I've paddled, so I could probably do that." And she pulled it off.
It was horrifying.
My son and daughter-in-law did it in Kennebunk Port last summer. Yeah. Paddleboarding. Oh my gosh, but they're both good swimmers, so
you better be.
Unfortunately, we had very calm water that day and not a lot of current, so it worked out quite well.
Right.
But that was it was a lot of fun, and I think it was good. We got a lot of good press out of that. We had
was there a lot of national? Because it was, let's say it was national press, because it was all over the United States. And did you people get any reactions from those people out there about?
Well, between that and then an interview that I got to do on the show Chronicle out of Boston, I had people from 1974, my high school graduating class, that hadn't seen me since then, contacting me through Facebook, which I was shocked because I don't look quite the same as I did in 1974.
We all both, none of us do.
Hair's a little short, a little longer then, and so on. But no, it was it was quite good. So we actually had people at our art festival that had seen those ads that came up from Massachusetts that otherwise probably wouldn't have. So
yeah, it's true. It pays out. It brings the people down.
Right.
And what do you think of the two cities, Bob? Because you're from Massachusetts. You were from
I'll tell you,
moving up here.
Yeah.
What do you think of the two cities?
We came out to Maine on a winter vacation with my two teenage daughters who had no interest in moving to New England after we had discussed it the summer before. But once we got here, they met some relatives that we have in the area that they had never met, thought that was great. The extended family was intriguing to them, so they said they wanted to move here. We decided we would on a whim. We moved here, we looked at 5 different towns, and we picked Saco because it had a great little downtown. It seemed like, even as we just walked around that march looking for where we wanted to live, the girls liked the high school, certainly, and then it just seemed like a town that was embracing, and as evidenced by the fact that, you know, I've been to plenty of city council meetings. Everybody knows me there.
Yeah.
I'm on 2 or 3 different boards and or steering committees. One is the most recent age-friendly Saco steering committee. But yeah, we've been accepted at that whole from away thing hasn't really pulled up as much as I thought it would when we first heard about that and moved here. So it's been, my kids have been accepted and love it. My wife is a teacher at Saco Middle School, and I'm apparently the mayor of Main Street, from what I understand.
What's your license plate say?
My license plate says Mr. Saco. And
Mr. Saco.
So I think
as
he
I
likes
said,
it.
luckily it's not Damerscott because it would be hard to put that on a license plate. So
That's a long. That's
that's a long one.
word.
Yeah, exactly. So
Let's talk about the about the support about your organizations, the people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
What is their support and how they feel to each of your organizations?
There's so many different angles of support. You know, one is the volunteers. We have 4 committees that have people showing up every month for meetings, doing the planning to make, you know, the events we've been mentioning and happen. And this week or next Monday, we're helping 600 Biddeford Biddeford Middle School students go out and do volunteerism in the community. They'll be doing park cleanups and activities in the downtown. So just that idea that they're starting in middle school, thinking this is my community that I give back to, and that they'll keep building on that, I think, you know, would keep us in volunteers forever if they all stay involved.
Because you have a UNE also too, which is a big help for you people
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
I don't know about Rob, but I
Yeah.
know about the city of Biddeford.
Right now we have 2 UNE interns working back at the office who do 120 hours of with Heart of Biddeford in the semester.
Community service.
Yep, and so they're helping market our Great Space Showcase that we have coming up at the end of the month, where we're showcasing the available storefronts downtown. They're working on it at the office right now. And then a lot of the students, their senior year, have to do 15 hours of volunteer service. So we often hook them up with opportunity just to come help with an event for the day, things like that.
Because you're the executive director, but below you, is there also too, you got a board of directors? Can you?
Yeah. Well, I report to the board of directors. They're my bosses.
they're above us at that point.
No, just kidding. If any of them are watching, just kidding. But yeah, so there are, you know,
Right.
bosses that make sure that the organization stays on track, stays on its mission, that there's funding needed to do everything we need to do, and then 4 committees. And then we have an office manager, and the last couple of years we've had a Vista, AmeriCorps Vista. It's like a, what's the program that goes internationally?
I don't know.
You know, a service of Peace Corps.
Okay,
It's like Peace Corps, but for the U.S.
Okay.
So he works for our office and help, you know, I couldn't coordinate volunteer opportunities for 600 students, but he's been working on that for the last month or so.
Rob, how about you?
Well, we're a little
City
thinner
of
staffed
Saco.
than that. We're kind of retooling a little bit. And one thing, a new initiative that I'm starting actually is to, even though I've got some gray showing up significantly, that we're trying to get the younger generation. When I say younger generation, we've just had 250 people move into Saco in the Mill Building 4. And of that, probably 3/4 of them are in the ages of 25 to 35 years old. So what I'm trying to do is reach out to that age group to find out what do they want out of Saco and out of Saco Main Street. They may not appreciate or want to go to art festival or to a classic car show, but they may want other things. And so we're trying to find out what that group wants and to try to be open to, you know, age friendly to all ages, not just 55 and older kind of ages. So, I mean, it needs to that. Anytime you you stay with one age group and one demographic, you start to get stagnant. So we're trying to see what we can do to change it up more in that respect. And as far as volunteers go, we've been getting new volunteers lately. We've been pushing that a lot. Just out there talking, the events, picking up new people that have an interest in supporting Saco, trying to build Saco's the energy downtown. It's starting to change significantly. We've got new restaurants and coffee shops that are starting to open that haven't been there for a long time. Saco never really went down, but it just kind of went quiet for a long time, and I think that that's changing significantly now. Last year we had 33 painted Adirondacks on Main Street. This year we're going to produce some more of the same Adirondacks, and we're also going to put a couple of pianos that will be painted and left out on Main Street for people to play. And just again, one more thing to kind of bring a little new life into the town. We've got some other unique ideas that we're not announcing yet, but I think that will show up later this summer in Main Street that are going to be kind of art-oriented and color-oriented that'll make quite a difference in the downtown.
Because one year you had lighthouses out there, quite a few
They
of
did
them.
have lighthouses, actually. They're all over New England, from what I understand. We have one that still sits there on our Main Street,
Right.
at the corner of Scammon and Main.
Right, there's still one over there, and you know, I think they had about 8 or 10 of them. I think they had put up, but they sold some. You know, they had.
Well, that one was actually purchased by a sponsor who ended up donating it to Saco Main Street, and it was installed there several years ago. So it's that kind of a thing, except when I went with the Adirondack chairs, I was trying to find something that would kind of tie into the come and set a spell, which a lot of people talked about, wanting to have places to gather and meet their neighbors. And then nothing says Southern Maine like an Adirondack chair, certainly. But it also was at a price point that insurance agent or realtor or individuals could sponsor, as well as corporations, versus it having to be a very large corporation. So it worked out well, and we had a good time with it. It was a lot of fun.
Delilah, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, we had talked about, you said how is support going, and volunteers is a big part of it, and then you were mentioning sponsors, which, you know, those businesses, whether they're willing to
Live without.
Yeah, we wouldn't
Exactly.
exist. And then I was thinking just, you know, the importance of mentioning the cities are extremely behind what we do. In order to be a Main Street organization, you have to have the city on board and working with you, and we're both really lucky to have cities that do that. And, you know, it's not just because events are nice and it's fun to do, it's because it's tied to your community being resilient.
Yeah.
Just one quick story in Vermont. Remember when the 2011 hurricane happened?
Yes.
You know, roads knocked out, bridges. They say that the communities that came together the fastest to recover were the ones that had a lot of potluck events at town hall or town meetings, where they were used to coming together and working on stuff. And it wasn't related to how do you survive a hurricane. It was, you know, we're celebrating our history month or something, you know, but because they'd had those connections and contacts and knew who knew what and how to do what, they were able to recover quickly. So I think, you know, we're throwing events and we're having fun and we're building community, but it's also making us more resilient for anything that does come up in the future. And then another quick story, I just learned that Walmart, where their company store is, not company store, where their headquarters is, has now just made huge investments in their downtown there. And the reason is they can't attract people to come work at the Walmart headquarters, probably for very good wages, unless they have a thriving, interesting downtown with cool stuff to do. So Walmart, which is kind of the opposite of the small local thing, realizes that small local is what people are looking for when they're attracting employees and customers. So we're part of the city's economic development strategy by creating a place that people want to come to.
Now, let's talk about Main Street in Biddeford.
Yeah.
Of course, we got new restaurants and new things coming up. Is there anything new which is going to be happening?
Well, let's see. The restaurants have been going very well. They're, you know, that's what's getting the most like media attention, I guess you would say, and it's drawing people from all kinds of places. You know, when you go into Biscuits and Company on Sunday, you know, I haven't met any of these people before. A lot of them are coming from other places, as well as people bringing their mom down for brunch or whatever. I did just hear that, can't mention that, but there's another business coming in, but it'll be a little later this summer. And I am trying a couple of projects right now to draw some, what I'm calling active businesses to the downtown. I think it's okay to say this. Have you ever heard of an escape room before? It's a new thing. There's like 3 up in Portland and South Portland. You bring your team in there or your family, and you're given these clues and puzzles. And in order to get out of the room or rooms, you have to solve these puzzles. And yes, codes department won't let you actually lock people in, so you can get out anytime. But it's really fun. I just did it with my daughter and niece and husband the other day. And so I'd love to have things like that, where you bring your group downtown, you do a fun thing, then pop over to Cowbell for something to eat, just get out and involved. So we need more stuff that gets the college students to stick around.
I felt bad a couple of weeks ago when I found out that the gym, well, the one that's in the mill, was closing, because my grandkids went there and they come down and they really enjoyed it.
I think we're going to hear some good news in that space.
You think so?
Very soon.
Bob, what do you think about the restaurants around here? Since you're a newcomer, been here about a year and a half.
Yeah.
What do you think of the variety of foods that we have around here?
Well, I think we've got a great variety. If you look at both sides of the bridge, there's complementary different restaurants that work out well. We'd like to see a little bit more food and drink in Saco as we go forward. Even the restaurateurs and bars that are there would like to see more, because as they say, it is competition, but at the same time it generates more activity. I mean, I'm sure that the first restaurant that popped up in the new Biddeford downtown was fine, but then once they got 2 or 3, now people start coming down, and if you go to a restaurant and it's full, and you say, let's go try this one, I haven't been there, and that kind of thing. So we're really, I'm quite pleased the way things are going and the trajectory that we're on that way. And then just one other thing, just to back up to a point with regards to the city's support of us. Both cities have brand new city administrators within the last 2 years.
Yep.
Economic development in Saco is about 2 years, and I think not much longer, 3 or 4 in
Daniel, same as me, I think 6.
Yeah,
7
okay.
years.
So, but a lot of new vision and a lot of grand ideas, I think. As I said to City Council in a report one time, was that there was a time when Saco really boomed, and Biddeford as well, where beyond Boston, this was the place to be on the northeast coast. It was a seaport that really was rocking, and it's time that our city councils on both sides, really put some vision forward for the long-term future and think about the future, and not just the minute by minute, but think about where are we going to be and setting a legacy for our children and our grandchildren and beyond with that.
Because the city of Biddeford right now, I think they're on the right track for a lot of this stuff, especially for Main Street, because I was brought up here.
Right.
And if you would have seen it in the 50s, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but in the 50s and 60s.
And then the 70s and 80s were not quite as the same?
It started in the 60s, really, late 60s. That's when it started to drop,
Right.
But if you would have seen Main Street bustle, you wouldn't have believed it.
And the town that I grew up in, Massachusetts, was an old mill town. We've got about 1.5 million square foot of brick still sitting in the center of town that is not terribly attractive, and then they did not do anything with it. And that happened about late 70s, early 80s, where the decline hit, and they shut it down, and it still sits there. They kept trying to push it as a mill and not as an alternative for smaller makers or restaurants and mixed use and housing, which they're now trying to catch up with, certainly. But at the time, it was, we can get another mill here. And I think some of Biddeford and Saco did that for a while too, where they said, the mill will come back, and the mill is not coming back as a mill, but as housing, as commercial space.
Right,
there's a lot of
110
opportunities.
businesses in the pepper mill?
I had Dan Stevenson on the show here last year, and Dan and I spoke with Mr. Pendleton, and we spoke, and I told him, I said, I travel 495 quite often, because I go to Virginia and Pennsylvania, and I travel this route, and in Lowell, Haverhill, Lawrence, you see it on right there, the buildings, they're being reborn, and it's what, like you just described.
Right.
Condos, businesses coming in, no more mills, that's gone by.
Dover, New Hampshire is another great example of a mill town that did the same thing.
But if you go into the Pepperell Mill, many of the businesses are small, 5 or fewer employees, but Angel Rocks is one that comes to mind, and Hyperlight. Hyperlight started in something about half the size of this room.
What is Hyperlight?
Hyperlight, it is a Cuban fiber material that they make into backpacks and tents, and they're often, like every other month, on the cover of Outdoor magazine and those kinds of things because they're so light. And they started with, about this, grew to maybe, 3,000 feet, and now they've just doubled again. So they're adding more employees all the time who are doing the textile work. They're seamstresses, or what's a man seamstress?
Seamstress.
Sewer. I'm not sure what the terminology is.
You got me blank now. You made me blank.
You jump in if you got it. But
A postmaster is a postmaster, whether they're male or female.
Okay.
In today's
Somebody
That's a good
write
question.
in here
That's a
and figure
good,
it out for us.
Delilah, that's a good question.
A lot of employees, let's put it that way. So
Right.
they're in there doing modern textile businesses, but today they're not doing it at the scale, that filled those rooms with, hundreds of people at a time at 113 degrees. The Pepperell Center used to have to work.
Right.
Can you imagine? Did you ever work?
My parents did.
Your parents did. Okay, so you know.
My father did. I worked in a bakery. It was in the summertime. It was 100 degrees.
Oh God! You guess you do know 100 degrees.
I can tell you that one. That's the only thing I can tell you is the bakeries.
Right. Right.
But the mills were really warm.
Yeah.
They were really warm. And it was all the buildings were utilized. And they were used, and the amount of people that was employed there was unbelievable. But over the
Yeah, I'm
years,
sure shift changed, the streets just filled up with people.
Yeah.
Same with the town that I grew up in.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, and of course we had all kinds of restaurants, and of course if you look at downtown in my era, you looked at it and you had doctors, lawyers, beauticians. They were all on Main Street. They were not where they are today. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just the stores. They had all kinds of different stores, but like they say, when the big box stores came in, that's what quieted everybody down. It's the same thing with local grocery stores. We had one on every corner, and today you're down to just the big boys. The little ones have almost all
Right.
gone by the wayside.
Right.
You might have one or two that's here and there, but
Right.
they are. That's another thing that's going to be going into the past. It's sad, but a lot of these stores that were on each corner. My father-in-law owned a grocery store for a good number of years. In the neighborhood I was brought up in, there was one almost every corner.
Yeah.
Right.
They were run by different families,
Right.
Franco-American families. It was unbelievable what they survived.
Right.
And then the big stores came in, but we had First National at the time, grocery stores. We had AMP, that type of nature. But that was it for big stores. You didn't hear about Hannaford or Shaw's or anything of
Right,
that
right.
nature. That came in later, But when that came in, that's when.
The small ones
Right,
closed.
and so one of the values of the downtown, which obviously it did get empty for a while, but it's starting to come back, is that when I was, for almost 30 years prior to coming to Saco, I was in corporate real estate. So whenever we did a site search, before we went to look at the industrial park or before we went to look at the office building, the CEO of the company that was looking always went through downtown to see what it looked like, wanted to know about the schools, parks, and libraries. Once you get that piece, check all those boxes, then we moved on to the actual facility. Because if an industrial park is an industrial park, I mean, they all have the same similar attributes, but it's what is the town I'm going to move my wife, kids,
they get to offer.
and people to. Exactly, because that's what they want. And so if you have a downtown that's vacant and empty, let's talk about Gary, Indiana, which was one that I used to live near. Every storefront was empty, and the businesses had all left. And they weren't coming back at a rapid rate. And as Delilah mentioned, with Walmart wanting to really reinvest in their downtown for that same reason. And we just recently got back from a Main Street conference for the National Main Street Organization in Pittsburgh. And I attended an event talking about art in downtowns, public art. And that group actually had a $12 million budget, which is something we will never see. But that group said that the building blocks for their downtown were public art, programs within the public spaces, which brought people downtown, which had people start living downtown, and then the businesses, the restaurants and the bars started to follow that group as they went. And the Public Art Commission is actually a department within the Economic Development Department because they felt it was that important as a building block for their downtown.
A couple of years ago, my son lives in Virginia, on the outskirts of Richmond, and my daughter-in-law took me through Main Street in Richmond, and it's about 2 miles long. And what they've done down there, they started with one block at a time, fixing it and going through it. They fill it, then they move on to the next block. And the colors are unbelievable. It's different colors. It's not the Civil War era buildings. It's different colors, and they've been filling it as they go. And it's just like you just described. People live upstairs. Some of the stores are downstairs, but it seems like Richmond is being reborn as well. I was very, very impressed the way they were doing it. They would move everybody out of that one block, whoever was in there, and they fixed it all up and then moved on to the next one. And that's what they've been seeing around, It's amazing. And I was very impressed with what they were doing, It can be done anywhere, as long as you have the money and the go power.
Well, and that's what we do every day.
Not necessarily one block at a time, but
it's step by step though. You can't just do it all at one day.
No, you can't. One
thing that I've learned in the last year, it all can't be done right away. It has to be done piece by piece and inch by inch and brick by brick.
Many different directions.
Okay, let's talk about River Jam, which is going to be coming up. I know you're both, because last year you both joined forces together. Let's talk about River Jam.
Well, it's even bigger this year, and what's great is we've been holding something called the River Jam Beer Summits. So we go to the breweries and just hold a beer summit so people can come, sit around the table and throw out ideas.
So you can be thinking and drinking at the same time.
Which I don't know how much thinking. Yeah, there's been good thinking on it. And we will be doing much of what we did last year on Saturday again with adding some new pieces. So if you want to try out a stand-up paddleboard or kayaking on the water, there'll even be a boat ride that you can take down the river and back. So we're getting people onto the river. A circus will be there doing, it's not animal circus, it's like a performance circus, so people doing aerial stuff.
And aerial, right.
Now, we're still going to have it in back of the on the Saco side in the parking lot?
Actually, the morning starts on the river. Rummery's Boatyard sort of serves as our base for our river-based activities to start with. This is after the 5K race that you have from Clifford Park it starts in and comes to Mechanics Park. And then it'll then move into the Mechanics Park area where we'll have crafters or makers of product. We're going to have other events going on, music and other sort of street performers and that kind of thing. And then later in the afternoon it moves across to the Saco Island behind Run of the Mill. And that's where we have our concert series and food trucks, and there'll be beer there too.
The food trucks, I thought it was a good idea last year, but you didn't, you were very, it seems like you didn't have that many.
Well, the years before had 500 people, so we said, we're pretty certain we can guarantee 500. We don't know if it'll be more, and easily 1,500 were there.
And I heard they sold out.
They did.
They did. Yeah.
We had to run up to Portland Pie and buy stacks of pizza and come down and sell them for a couple bucks a slice, just so people would still have food.
Just to keep it going.
I was impressed with the crowd there too that Saturday evening.
Yeah, I think that we're going to, with good weather, and we only allow good weather in Saco.
That's why we're having it on the Saco.
There you go. There you go. But no, with good weather, I think that we can easily get into the 2,500 range. People will bring their friends back. There's a lot of people that were there that really enjoyed it, and there were a lot of people that didn't come that said, wow, should have been there.
Should have been, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. So, it takes that sometimes. We just have to, if you build it, they will come. And they've seen it, they've heard about it, and I think that we're going to get a good group. We're going to get some of the, similar bands, certainly in style, and it's free. These bands charge $20 a night to go see them if you go see them somewhere else.
I know.
And you've got 4 of them for free. Did I say free?
I heard you, And
So,
we're adding a Friday night this year because we really wanted to make sure the high school students and college students had something especially for them. So we're doing a battle of the bands on Friday night with the same stage and light and sound system. So they get this, kind of big band performance.
So when's the date on this and what's the month?
Friday, September 15th into Saturday, September 16th.
So the Friday night's the idea is to get the garage bands from Biddeford High School and from Thornton Academy and other bands that may be a combination of Biddeford and Thornton Academy, and get them out there where they can get that experience of being on a professional stage with lighting and sound and that sort of thing.
Very good idea.
And have a lot of fun and just kind of go with it. Yeah, because we have this beautiful stage that popped up last year, and now it's time to share it with some others as well.
Because a lot of these kids are really talented. Some
They
of
are.
them playing music, it's unbelievable.
And they're practicing, in their basements for months at a time. Let's get them up on the big stage.
Right, give them that opportunity to show their wares out in public.
You were talking about tours up the river.
Yes.
Years ago, that's what they did have out of where Mechanics Park is. There used to be a street there, and at the end of the street, people used to get on the boats, and they used to go right up to the Biddeford Pool, tour Biddeford Pool, and come back down. Some of these boats carried as much as 600 people. They were mill workers, and they used to, on Saturday or Sunday, they would get on the boats. They would go down to the pool, come back down the river, and there's one ship that is sunk, and I think it's up by St. Francis, up by UNE, up there. But that's what they used to
I've never heard
do.
that before.
Cruises.
Huge ones.
Cruises, yes.
Yeah.
And I did some research on it quite a few years ago, and there was 2 boats, I believe, that were doing that. And because at that time we didn't have what we have today.
That was before iPads and smartphones,
Yeah.
and TVs and DVRs.
That's right.
And, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Was
Probably only radio at the time, probably.
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that because I was talking to Michael at Michael's Pizza, and he talked about being in business 50 years, and his dad had owned it as a bar originally. And he said when the mills used to let out, there were bars all over Saco and Biddeford
were.
on every corner,
Yeah.
and every group had their bar. And that's what they all went to as soon as work was done. And then he said, and then it all started dying. I said, why did it die? And he said, TV. Everybody wanted to go home and see what the news was, what was on TV. And so TV kind of killed that communal, let's get together and find out what's going on kind of thing.
And he's absolutely
So,
right.
Yeah, and his dad heard about this thing called pizza that some Greek relative of his in New Hampshire had just found out about, and they started a pizza
Oh, I
place, and
love
there you
it.
go. 50 years later, he's still making pizza on a regular basis. So,
Unbelievable. Huh?
yeah.
You got anything else to add before we close the show?
One last thing, it's a plea to everybody listening to this to not be thrown off by the construction that's going to happen in May and June downtown Biddeford, because there's new paving coming in and crosswalks being repaired here and there. And, Heart of Biddeford's website and the chief of police's emails go out to kind of tell people what construction's coming up, but park on a side street, and if you're able to walk the block into Main Street, don't forget that Riley's, if you lose 400 customers in a day because they won't come downtown for the construction, it's hard to stay open, so
Yeah.
we really want people to
We're
support.
doing the same thing in Saco right now. It's a mess. We're changing out a 130-year-old water line.
I know.
Abraham Lincoln was somewhere dead 30 years when it went in.
Wow.
Just to give you a context, but yeah, you got to just embrace it as it's a good thing for the future. It's a pain right now maybe, but it's not hard to work around. We can still get through downtown. It just takes a little bit more time. It's time to pause and look and see what's going on downtown as you
Nice.
go through slowly.
That's right.
Ooh, that's good.
So
That's a good one.
Yeah.
yeah, but you had a lot last year. We've got a lot. We had some gas last year. We've got water this year, but it's all good stuff for the long term. It just
Well,
needs to happen.
both cities really need it because don't forget, you're talking these cities were built in the 1800s, early
Right.
1900s, and
Yeah.
deterioration underneath the ground. People don't realize that.
Right.
Because we went through it in Biddeford when I was on the council. Same way,
Yeah.
There's one more thing. The art festival that you have at the end of the month, that draws a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yes, it does. Art Walk, right. Last Friday of every month, in this April through October.
That draws a lot of people.
Great to have people come down for that. And that's really fun because you've got a map and you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on in this block, but I know where the next stop is. So.
I've seen a lot of people walking the streets, and the main street is full of cars. It's unbelievable, you know. And and what do you think of Riverwalk? I should ask you one more question before we close. How about Riverwalk, which the city of Biddeford is doing?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so
can you
exciting that finally the Laconia Plaza, that's what it's called, right? The newest aspect is opening, having a ribbon cutting this Thursday. So that'll be open and accessible to people to get to now. So it's getting people out, and the more it can go all the way up the river, the more it'll be a thing that people will drive from all around, park, go for their walk, check out a little spot for lunch. It's great.
Rob, what do you think of that new bridge that they installed last year, a couple of years ago?
Well, I wasn't here for the installation,
you
but
weren't?
I moved here just as they did the dedication, as a matter of fact, a couple of months before that. I think it's great. I mean, obviously it's symbolic somewhat as well, but once the Riverwalk is sort of active, then that all certainly ties into it. And on the Saco side, once you get past the dam and go down the saltwater side, it's much more natural at that point. And we're working to kind of obviously continually make some improvements there and enlarge that as well as we go down the river to the south side. So
Yeah, I think that the falls is really beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
No, there's like I say, to me, one of the most untapped things that both Biddeford and Saco have are the river, or is the river. When we had our water-based activities last year, I was amazed at how many people would be down there with me at Rummery's on the dock saying, wow, it's really beautiful down here. I can't believe it. And I'd say, well, where are you from? And I expected Salem, Mass, or somewhere else. No, I'm from Biddeford, and I've never seen the river. I see Biddeford Pool. I see the bridge when I drive between Saco and Biddeford, and that's it. And they don't know that there's several bald eagles on the island, on the river as you go down. I mean, I kayak it on a regular basis. Yep. And I'm always running into them.
Yeah, Laurel Hill, up in Laurel Hill area, there's
exactly.
Some there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those things that we need as Saco and Biddeford to work more and more on. How can we access that river with water-based businesses and active businesses like that, and just get people out there.
Before, one more thing, if you're looking at the boats that are coming in out of Portland, those little boats that go island to island, eventually, they'll come down this river and go right down to the base of the bridge down there, and bring tourists in. It can be done.
We need a dredge, but we're working on that. Both cities are working together on that, and that would certainly make a big difference. And then the east side of the island, get the development going to where there is dockage for them to come into and come up the river, park your boat, have dinner, go to an event. You're good to go.
So I want to thank you both for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
It was a really good conversation we had.
Great.
And I wish you guys both the best of luck, and you'll be seeing me.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm your host, Roger Hirschbees for Biddeford Today. I hope you enjoyed our program. Until next time, thank you for watching.